Tech community for this webinar on Accelerate SharePoint Framework Development with PNP. So today's webinar will be conducted by me, Nandadeep Nathan, as well as Siddharth Vagasia. We have been mostly working onto the SharePoint framework, and since PNP is the major contributing factor in the SharePoint framework development, we thought to have this webinar with you. So a brief introduction of me, myself, Nandadeep Nathan. I am Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services, Microsoft Certified Trainer, author of a couple of books on SharePoint Hybrid and SharePoint Framework. And onto the right hand side, here are a few social handles to get connected with me. The agenda for the hour is we'll get introduced to PNP, what is meant by PNP, and then what are the repositories available from PNP which we can use on a regular basis or in our day-to-day activities with SPFX, so that we can save our time, we can have more social or the community collaboration by using those repositories. So the simple objective of this webinar is to help promote the fantastic community project, which is PNP, and then demonstrate you how you can get the benefits also out of using those PNP resources. And then since it is a community effort, it is not a one-way communication. So we also want you to get motivated and contribute back to the community so that it will be a win-win situation for everyone. So coming to the problem thing, so like what are the things that we are trying to resolve? So we mostly are SharePoint framework or the SharePoint developers who are transitioning ourselves from the classic SharePoint to the modern SharePoint, and for that mostly we are using SharePoint framework. So whenever we are using SharePoint framework, it's like we don't have all of the things which we used to do in classic SharePoint, because all of you are aware that the modern SharePoint doesn't give that flexibility or those kind of an customizations option which we used to do in classic SharePoint. Because in classic SharePoint we have control over master page layouts, everything. We can inject our JavaScript wherever we want and get the things done. But in modern SharePoint we have everything under more governance or more control, wherein you cannot inject any JavaScript by which you will be able to do anything. So whenever we are mapping our solutions from classic SharePoint to the modern SharePoint, there are few things which we need to consider. So the first problem that we come across is we don't have enough out of the box building blocks in SPFX. That means we have few first party web parts available in modern SharePoint, but those may or may not be sufficient to resolve our problems. So then we start building our own SPFX solutions, web parts, extensions, and many other things. But again, whenever we start ourselves, there are few constraints like the time required to create and maintain your own reusable code. Then again, the time required to create your own documentation, and at the same time, ensure that high standards are being delivered whenever we are delivering any of the SharePoint framework solution. And then again, since Power Apps and other things, they have their own implications with the licensing. SharePoint framework mostly stands good from that perspective. Then again, there are questions like how we are going to have good practices implemented in our solutions, and then what will be the future maintenance of all of the solutions that we are developing. So these are the questions that comes to every developers when it tries to develop anything onto the modern SharePoint, mostly using SharePoint framework. So the solution for it is very simple, a community-driven shared efforts. So what is mean by that is we have those reusable community projects and they are absolutely free. So the benefit is that there are continuous updates being done from community onto SharePoint framework solutions, and then the code which is built by the community is being reviewed by multiple people. And again, once we start using these things, we have significant reduced development time and maintenance, because we can just plug and play that particular SharePoint web part or extension, and then we are good to go. One thing again, since this is a community efforts, this is not a one-way traffic. We can provide our feedback based on the usage and queries that we have. And then again, even we can contribute back by submitting those pull requests, by raising the bug fixes, new features, and the new controls. So in that perspective, the good point is that we have a SharePoint PNP. So PNP stands for Patterns and Practices. So this SharePoint development community, which is known as SharePoint PNP community, is a open source initiative coordinated by Microsoft SharePoint engineering team. And this community controls SharePoint development, documentation, samples, reusable controls, and other relevant open source initiatives which are related to SharePoint development. So this PNP has a wide range of repositories to offer us most of the functionalities on SharePoint, but here are few of those repositories which are majorly focused onto the SharePoint framework development. So we have SharePoint framework web parts, SharePoint framework extensions, then reusable React controls, PNP.js, then the property pane controls, list formatting samples, CLI for Microsoft 365, and modern search. So each of these repository has got more offerings for SharePoint framework. So we will explore each of those repositories and see like how we can use those repositories, those samples, those controls, those offerings from PNP, and how we can benefit our development for a faster development. Okay, so then why should we use all of those samples controls from PNP or any of the community? So the simple answer is that all of those samples controls, they are coming from the first party's SharePoint solutions. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we already have got few things at our hand to work on, by which we'll be able to speed up our development. And then again, this is a community driven where you can post your ideas, questions, and then you can work along with the community. Okay. So first thing what we have here is the SharePoint framework web parts. So in a nutshell, this SharePoint framework client-side web parts are controls that appear inside your SharePoint page. So they are the building blocks of pages that appear on a SharePoint site. So it could be a modern SharePoint or a classic SharePoint site. So we have a repository for this, which is located at aka.ms/spfx-web parts. And this particular repository contains community samples that demonstrate different usage patterns for the SharePoint framework client-side web parts. So this repository contains samples of SharePoint framework web part, Teams web part, personal apps, and the app page samples. So for example, once you are to this particular page, you will be able to get all of those samples by the framework which is being used. So let's say you are working on a framework or you're developing a SharePoint framework web part with React framework. In that case, you can simply go to this React tab, and then you will be able to see all of the web parts which are created with React. At the same time, for example, if you are coming from an Angular background, you want to develop something on a SharePoint framework with Angular, then you can refer to these samples. For example, you don't have anything in your mind, you just want to get started using those web parts, come to this all, search for your web part, and you will be able to use that across your solutions. Again, uh, all of us don't work in SharePoint Online. So it's like by design, SharePoint Framework version 1.0 is supported in SharePoint 2016, as well as SharePoint Framework version 1.4.1 is supported in SharePoint 2019. And SharePoint Online obviously supports the latest GA from the SPFX. So let's say, for example, if you're working onto SharePoint 2019 and you want to use any of the sample from this web part gallery, in that case, you can simply switch to 1.4.1, and here are all of those web parts which you can use in your SharePoint 2019 environment. So for example, if you don't have that kind of an restrictions and you want to use all of those web parts in your SharePoint Online environment, you can simply go to all and you can use any of the environment, any of the sample from here. So if you have those kind of restrictions based on your environment where you want to use your SPFX version, you can filter out the web parts which are available here based on that particular version. Then we have something called as compatibility. So again, the compatibility is majorly for SharePoint Online, SharePoint 2019, and Microsoft Teams. So most of us know that SharePoint or this SharePoint framework also supports hosting themselves in Microsoft Teams. So if you are specifically looking out for those solutions which you can use across SharePoint Online as well as Microsoft Teams, you can always come to this particular tab, and all of the solutions mentioned here will work on both SharePoint as well as Microsoft Teams. And then we have by year, by author. If you are specifically you want to know like who contributed, when contributed, you'll be able to do all those things from here. The good thing is search by a keyword. So let's say, for example, you have been tasked with creating some kind of an web part, which is maybe a RSS reader. So first thing to means maybe a thumb rule is like whenever possible, use the first party web parts which are available with your modern SharePoint. For example, if we don't have any of the out of box web part available to us, the second thing to look out is the PNP repository, which is open right front of you. So here you can search by the keyword which you want to work on. And lastly, for example, if you don't have that sample available here, create that sample and maybe contribute that back to the community so that even everyone will get benefited. At the same time, if there are any things broken in your solution, community will be able to help you. So let's say, as an example, we have been tasked by creating a web part called as RSS reader. So here I can just come and with this SharePoint, just by typing the RSS, we come to know that we have one web part here for RSS reader. So the thing is like we don't have to invest our time in developing the RSS reader web part, but rather we can go ahead and use this web part. So you can see that this web part has been created a couple of years back, but this is majorly used RSS reader web part. And if you find any of the issue related to this particular web part, in that case, you can add that thing into this issues list, and someone from the community will always help you to get that fixed, and even you can fix it on yourself and push back to this particular repository so that everyone will be benefited from that. So each of the web part which you want to use has got a summary. So PNP has nicely documented this so that they follow the pattern for each of the web part being developed. So first thing is a summary which briefly describes about what this web part is all about, like what are the features that have been provided by this particular web part. And for example, if there are any reference links which are being referred while creation of this particular web part. So all those things you can find into the summary, and it is not like you have to create a package out of it, deploy, and then see like how it works. But from here, you will get a fair idea of how this web part looks, how this web part works, and again, what are the parameters that we have as a configurable web part properties, which we can use across our solution. Okay. Then the next thing is that onto which SharePoint framework version this particular web part is used on, so that you can start using it in your SharePoint environment. So it could be SharePoint Online, SharePoint 2019, based on which drop version you are using. So here clearly, since this is 1.7.0, this is a candidate for Office 365. And then again, who developed it? And then here is something called as an minimal path to awesome. So that means with what minimal path you will be able to deploy this particular solution to your tenant and how you can use it. So because this one is a very simple solution, not from the uh, implementation perspective. From the implementation perspective, it is very hard. But again, from the usability perspective, because this sample doesn't have any dependencies onto any of the other apps and services inside Microsoft 365. So to use this particular sample, you can simply have the npm install and then gulps out to run. But again, we do have few samples which require some kind of an permissions to be granted first in order to use that. So for example, let me go back here and try to, okay, I think I opened a few things. All right. So for example, if I go here and maybe I will try to open up one solution, right? Okay, so this is a solution which is being created on top of Office 365 groups. So whenever we are working or whenever we try to get any of the information from Office 365 group, we know that we have to make any kind of an graph API calls. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the information from the Office 365 groups. So again, we have a summary here, but for example, if you refer to the minimum part to the awesome for this particular solution, then you will notice that this particular solution is using those permission requests. So whenever you will deploy this particular solution into your tenant, these are the scopes or these are the requests that you will have to approve. And once you do that, after that, you will be able to use this particular solution. So for example, if you have any of the restrictions from your organization wide, in that case, this is the good place to look out for. For example, if your organization doesn't allow to have any explicit permissions to be approved, in that case, you can get that information upfront. And then from there, you will be able to use this web part. So the simple thing is just try to see if the functionality which you want to achieve is available out of the box in modern SharePoint. If no, then this is the best place to search for that particular web part. And if it is not there, then probably consider creating a new one and then contributing back to the community. So again, a thing is like, for example, if you want to use any of the web part from here, you can go to this SPFX web part, or for example, even from here, you can go to the GitHub. And from this GitHub, you can fork this particular repository. For example, if you want to make any changes. Otherwise, even from here, you can directly download this particular solution as a zip, so that it will download all of the available samples as a zip. And then for that particular sample which you want to use inside your SharePoint framework solution, you can run the npm install, so that it will install all of those npm packages for you. And then you can simply run the gulp serve to use that particular web part in your SharePoint sites. Okay, so this is very much simple, like how we can start using those SPFX web parts inside our SharePoint solutions. So the next thing that we have is SPFX extensions. So you can use these SPFX extensions to extend the SharePoint user experience. So with these extensions, you can customize more facets of SharePoint experience, including notification area, toolbars, and list views. So these SPFX extensions enable you to extend the SharePoint user experience with modern pages and document libraries while using the familiar SPFX tools and libraries for client-side development. So in a nutshell, this SPFX extension has got three types: application customizer, field customizer, and command sets. So this particular repository has all of those samples available for each of those use. But just again, one thing to note here, that these SPFX extensions are only supported in modern SharePoint. So they won't be able to use in a classic SharePoint site. Okay, so just coming or going back to this repository. So this is a repository where you will be able to see all of those SPFX extension. And again, as I said, those three types you will be able to figure out from here. So let's say we want to create any of the extension as an application customizer, so that we will have something onto our Chrome area of our page. So you can filter out from that is application customizer, list view, or field customizer based on what kind of a requirement you are working on. And from here, you will be able to use that. So a common case that has been seen into most of the development is maybe if I go to keyword and try to search for maybe mega menu. So right now the mega menu is available out of the box with modern, but this is the major solution that has been developed for this particular client-side extensions. So this solution is again developed with JavaScript-based frameworks, and then again you can use it to create your mega menu kind of and things. So for example, if you have been tasked for creating your custom mega menu, in that case probably this is the best place to look out for those kind of solutions. So for example, even if you want to have some kind of a notification that you want to set on your SharePoint page, so in that case you can use maybe this kind of a solution which will help you to have some kind of a notifications onto your SharePoint site. So let's say, for example, any kind of an server maintenance or any kind of an other alerts which you want to show to your customers or to the users. So you don't have to go and write a code for it. Probably this is the location from where you will be able to get that everything, and then you'll be able to use this sample as it is from here. So again,
Okay.
as like the SharePoint Framework web part, we have this SharePoint Framework extension library. Over here, you will be able to carry out the filtering based on the extension type or even by the framework by which these particular solutions have been developed. So mostly with jQuery, JavaScript or React, or again based on the SPFX version with which they have been implemented. And again, this keyword search will help you to look out specifically for that sample which you are looking out for, right? So this was the simple one. So let's get into the more complicated ones like reusable React controls for SPFX. So what are these reusable controls? So mostly it's like in majorly we deal with a few of the common things which we use across most of the SharePoint framework web parts or extension. So let's say maybe a list picker, or it could be some kind of an configuration which you want to host on top of our web part. So what we do is we write that code. Then for example, if you want to use the same kind of a functionality in the other SharePoint framework web part or sample, we simply copy paste that code to the other web part which we newly created, and then again we start using that particular code. So we don't have to do that because copying pasting all those code gives the burden onto the maintenance and future compatibility of those particular codes. So for that thing, PNP has a solution with reusable controls. So there are many reusable controls which have been developed which you can use right across your SharePoint framework web parts as well as SharePoint framework extensions. So this repository provides developers with set of reusable React controls that can be used in SPFX solutions. So the project provides controls for building web parts and extension both. Again, one thing to note here that this particular project has a minimal dependency on SharePoint Framework version 1.3.0. So you will be able to use this inside your SharePoint 2019 as well as SharePoint Online. So one thing here is that we also do have field controls here. So in what context these field controls are used is like this represents the React controls that can be used in SPFX field customizers to provide the rendering of fields which are similar to out of the box experience. So for example, if you want to render a taxonomy field or you want to render a lookup kind of a field, so you can use this reusable controls to get that work done. So let's have a look at the repository which will give you more idea. So this is the repository which is available for us to use those reusable React controls. So whenever we want to start using this particular repository, only thing is that we can just run this particular command npm install @pnp/spfx controls react and save the exact version if you want. And once we do this, we have all of those controls or this reusable React controls available for us to use in our SPFX solutions. So here we have two parts. One is controls and then we have field controls. So let's look at the controls first. So in the controls, we have various controls which are commonly used across all of the SPFX solutions, whether it could be a web part or whether it could be an extension. So, so the common control could be like a file picker. It could be a grid layout. It could be a folder picker. So these are the common functionality which we want to use all across our SharePoint framework web parts. So we will see like how we can use those and quickly how we can even use these field controls. So field controls are mostly used inside your field customizers, but again, if you want to use, they can be something like this. So if you want to use maybe a date render picker or date render control inside your extensions, in that case, you can simply use these fields, something like this, and then this will display that particular control as a field renderer. So let's have a look at the control which is being commonly used. So most of the time we have requirement that we want to have the list picker control, so that from that particular SharePoint site where our SharePoint framework web part is hosted, we'll be able to get a list of all of the SharePoint list which are available, and then then do the operations there onwards. So I will go to my development environments. I already have one project set up here called as PNP controls demo. Um, this hasn't been customized, but only thing I went ahead and run this particular command npm install, so that we can start using these reusable React controls inside this particular project. So let's say we want to use this particular list picker in our solution, so that we can show the available SharePoint list inside our SharePoint site onto a web part. So let's see like how we can start using that. So only thing is that we need to import this particular control in our SharePoint framework solution. So we will simply copy this statement from here, which is a simple import statement, and we will paste it here. Okay, so we have this list picker available to us which we can use, and then how that particular control can be used inside our code is here. So let me copy this and then we will go through the other parameters. So we have the list picker here. So the context which we will have to pass as the context onto which this particular web part is hosted on a SharePoint site. And then label is simply the label which will be shown against that particular control. Base template is the one where or the list we want to pick up those available list from. And then, for example, if you want to include those hidden lists, if you want to have the multi-selection on, and then what will happen whenever we make a selection from that particular drop down. So all of those documentation is here. You can refer to this documentation for each of the control. But again, since we want to make a use of this particular control, we will go ahead and copy this particular event that will turn on whenever we will make a selection from our drop down. So this is very simple. We are not doing anything when we get the whenever we get any of the value from here, but this will just simply render the list from my SharePoint site. And once we select or make a selection of on any of the list from that particular drop down, we are simply logging it to the console that which are the list are selected, right? So I have the gulps are running. Hopefully that have got compiled. I will go back to my hosted workbench, and from here we will add that particular web part here. So we have this PNP controls demo which we will add, and now that you can see that we have this list picker control available with us. So let me turn the debugger on F12, so that in the console we can see that whenever we make a selection of the list, we are able to get the GUID of that particular list, and all of these lists are coming from the SharePoint site. So the same way, for example, if you want to maybe have the people picker implementation, you can go to the people picker, maybe copy this particular import and then copy this particular control, and then you can start using this particular people picker. So you don't have to write your own code, so that you will have to again talk back to SharePoint, get the information from SharePoint what is needed, and then present it to the customer. So each of this control gives you a simple implementation and then few of the properties which you can use as well as you can extend. So for example, if you want to extend on how this control should be rendered, or what things should happen when there is a click, even you will be able to do it. So again, I will take this opportunity to show you the control which me and Siddharth have developed together, which is this list view control. So this list view control will give you the graphical representation of your information. So in a practical terms, you can use this control to maybe show the file explorer kind of a view, or even any kind of an hierarchical structure inside your SharePoint framework solution. So this particular control has got few of the properties associated with it. So let me go back there. So we have this selection mode by which we can specify like how the selection should be, whether it should be a single or multiple selection. And then the major things will be here, like this display mode, like how we want to render each of the tree item and the actions inside it. So I will leave it up to you to explore this control, but I just want to show this control to you. And okay, before show like how you can use this particular control. So again, same thing that we have imported this tree view and its related properties inside our import. And then I'm not using any of the dynamic thing here. I'm using the static JSON to bind to our tree control or tree view control. So once we have that particular JSON, so it can come from a dynamic calculation that you can make inside your SharePoint framework solutions. But at the moment we are using those static things. So once you have those dynamic or static things with you, you can bind those to the items property. And then again, we have multiple things here, like do we want to show the context menu to each of the tree item node, something like this, which can be make it out from this particular uh, image. So we have context menu attached to any of the node. And again, what will happen whenever we will click onto that particular context menu? So all those things are here. So probably I will go ahead and show you how this web part looks like, or how this controls looks like. So I have simple web part onto which I have added this particular control. So let's say whenever we select any of the node from here, it gives us the selection because I haven't done anything here. Simply I'm writing it to the console like what is the selection. And then from here, we can attach those custom actions to any of the node. So let's say I want to get some more information about this particular node. We can click this, click get item, and it will return the more information about this particular control or about this particular node. So in this particular fashion, even you will be able to attach your own custom actions or your own context menus to each of the node, and you can play with this control further. So like this is the place from where you will be able to see all of those reusable controls which you can use inside your SPFX solution. And once you again click onto this GitHub, this is the place where all of those sample codes are placed. So for example, if you find anything which is not working good with this particular solution or any of the solution, you can raise it as an issue. And if you have the solution, I will encourage you to have the pull request so that it will be reviewed by multiple person. And once it is okay, that particular contribution will be available for the benefit of community. So this is how we can use those web parts, extensions, and reusable React controls. So with that, I'm done with my presentation, and here are few of the other resources which you can use. For example, if you want to explore how you can create your own web parts, extensions, reusable controls, and other things. So I will pass on now to Siddharth, who will help us to walk through the other repositories and how we can get benefited from those repositories, right? Siddharth, over to you.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks for setting up the tone. Let me just share my screen. Let me know when it is visible.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, so Nandeep has already set the tone and everything about today's session and plus Pune Tech community. So I'll just move ahead and start introducing myself. I'm Siddharth Vagasia. I'm a technical consultant, primarily focusing on SharePoint, Office 365, Azure. And also we are kind of active PNP contributors. I mean, the idea behind this session was wherein me and Nandip discussed that we should be kind of have a session where people should know what are the different repos which are available, which we can reuse and fast our I mean make our accelerate our development across SPFX plus the other repos also. Okay, so these are some of my community, some of my social media handlers through which you can connect with me for any of the help or queries if you have. Moving ahead, what I will be doing is I will be talking about the PNP property controls, which is kind of the second part what Nandip has just concluded on the React controls of. Then we'll talk about PNP.js. Then we'll talk about PNP search solution and CLFI M365. The last point is kind of not maybe directly related to SPFX, okay, but it still has it's very important repo, and we can also by using it we can get many of the benefits which we would might have to develop thing from the scratch. Okay, so property pane controls. Okay, so property pane controls are basically the controls which are used as a on the property pane configuration side of the web part, right? So we all know with SPFX what we have is we have the content side of the web part where the content would be rendered, and what Nandip has covered, wherein the React reusable controls, these controls would be rendered on the actual content side of it, and the control which I will be talking about are the property pane controls which can be used on the right side to make the web part configurable. Correct. So as we have with the React reusable control, there is a different repo which is available and different npm package which is available, like which says SPFX property controls. Out of the box, to make a web part configurable, there are many out of the box controls which are available provided by Microsoft, right? But they are kind of in a way basic, wherein it just gives you the maybe a single line of text or a drop down or a radio button. But these controls are the controls which are developed by the community and which can be readily used with some of the use cases which you would kind of come across while developing these solutions. And to install, I mean, to use this, what you have to do, you have to just install this particular package, which is npm install at the rate pnp SPFX property control, and it would be installed as a part of npm package to your solution, right? So these are some of the examples. Okay, like one of the example is searching for the site, right? So consider a scenario wherein you want your web part to run not in the context of the current site, maybe in the context of a different site, right? And you want the web part to be reusable in such a way that if it is been configured in maybe site collection 1, you want to run it for site collection 1 or maybe cross site collection also. And then so if this control would kind of be readily used in the property pane side of the control, uh, wherein you can just add the control and it will give you the list of the sites. You don't need to make the REST API calls to get the sites, populate the control, display it, and what should happen on selection of it, right? So this would be readily available. You just have to kind of plug and play the way Nandip has shown with the React controls. Like it would be, the implementation would be more or less similar. Same way we have term picker, which is kind of allows you to select the taxonomy side of taxonomy picker on the web part property pane configuration. Then this one on the top and the bottom right is the view control, which is basically allows you to select the view of a particular list. So this again would be you don't need to query anything and populate this. It would be auto populated like the list picker control which we have seen, which Nandip has already demoed, right? So let me just first demo this couple of the controls which I have kind of started already. Um, so going to the workbench. Okay, I already have Gulp sub running. Okay, I'll just first show you the demo of what it is happening, and then we can do the code walkthrough. So I have used two controls, which one is the list picker control, which Nandip has already used. So I particularly choose this to use because what we wanted to show is the same control can be used on the content side, plus the same control can also be used on the property pane side of it. Okay, but the repos are different, but more or less the implementation would be same. So here also, if you see, it just gives me the list of the documents rather than the list. If you see, all these are document library. So how I configured is I have filtered the control to just display the document library rather than the list, right? And once I select any of this, what it will do, it will give me the list ID or document library and display it on the right hand side of it. Similar way, there is a multi-select field control. Okay, this control is still available in the out of the box also, as far as I remember. But before it was added to the out of the box, it was available in the PNP library. Okay, so if you select here the multi-select values, okay, it would be displayed on the right hand side. So these are just couple of the examples, okay, and the demo side of it. And going to the code. First, let me walk through the library. Okay, so this again we have the similar repo like property pane controls, and these are list of the controls which are available, which we can use in our code, right? And the document is pretty much self-explanatory, and it has uh, the steps are mentioned very clearly, which you will be able to use it directly. Like, so here also, first you do the first thing we will be doing is installing the library npm package. Once it is installed, we have to import that particular control which you wanted to use out of the controls which are available, and put it as an import. Then you have to add this control property to the group field of the web part property pane, right? And then there are implementation, like whatever configurations are available inside for that controls are been documented here, that we can use according to our need. Similar way, we can try any controls which we have. Okay, there are some good controls which are available, like site picker control, which we talk about, which allows you to select the site directly. Then you can also choose whether you want multi-select, single selection, and everything. Then there is a color picker control, which is again, an advanced control which allows you to select the color. So if you wanted to kind of make your web part user interface configurable, this control would be readily available and can be handy at times, right? Okay, so going to the code walkthrough. Okay, as I said, the first thing would be to import the control. So in my case, what we have is we have list picker control and the multi-select control. So we have just imported both the import statement for both the controls. And then to make any web part configurable, we the SPFX, as the part of SPFX development design, what we do is we add our control into property pane configuration method, right? So by default, it would be always one field which it is auto generated as a part of SPFX Yeoman generator. And this is the control which I have added for the list picker. Okay, so this again is kind of directly copied from the documentation, and then we can just modify it the way we wanted to do it. Like in my case, what I did, I have filtered the list by document library. So I have provided the base template at 101, which is basically only display the document libraries, and it won't display any list which is available. Then the second was the multi-select, right? And the multi-select is again, similar way. We just copy it from there, and we configure the key, the label which we wanted to display on top of it, and where should we store the selected keys. Okay, so this is basically storing in the local properties of the web part file. And here also, if you see, the properties are kind of stored in the selected list is stored in the list property about it. And then the regular thing wherein how to pass this to the SPFX React component, that is altogether a different story. But this is just to show you that it is very easy to use these property pane controls in our SPFX solution. So if you wanted something to make configurable, and if you feel that your requirement might need something advanced which is not available out of the box, we would encourage you to first check with this library and see if it is kind of fitting in your requirement, and then maybe you can use any of the controls which are available. Okay, moving ahead, let's talk about PNP.js. I'm sure most of the SharePoint SPFX developer would be aware about PNPJS, right? It is basically, a collection of Fluent library, right? Which is all again given to us as a part of MPF package. We can be used in SPFX solution. But one thing to note here is that PNPJS is not only limited to SPFX. Okay, you can still go ahead and use PNPJS into your non-SharePoint framework project, like, if you wanted to develop in Node.js, or if you wanted to develop in any JavaScript, anything which supports JavaScript, you would be able to use the PNPJS. Okay, what it does for us, it basically gives us a wrapper wherein we don't have to make the REST API calls from our side. Okay, what we have to do is it gives us different methods which are available, and it allows us to use that method, call the REST APIs in a type safe way, and so that we can directly focus on the business logic rather than focusing on how to make the REST API calls. So I remember in our previous development projects which used to do, what we do is we always create a provider, right, for any project which we develop, where we would put all the methods which would be directly connecting to either database or the external resources or external system through which you would be getting data, and basically add all the methods there, and then maybe reuse that method across our different pages or components, or what's depending on the type of project you are creating. Correct. So consider this similar, which is kind of readily available, which is supported by the community and developed by the community, and its usage is very high in terms of SPFX. Okay, and plus there are many advanced methods which are available, which we can directly use. Okay, so just again, to use that, what we have to do is we have to just run this npm install command. Okay, you don't necessarily need to run all of the libraries or the package which are used. If you suppose don't want to use the graph part of it, you can directly use pnp-sp. Yeah. Let me just first go through the pnp.js library repo documentation. So this is the kind of documentation which is there. Again, it is well documented. What you need to do is you just need to walk through once, okay, and understand how what we have to do for getting started. Like, you wanted to install the packages, then depending on which method you wanted to use, you would use the import statements, and then just you can directly use the methods which are available inside the repo, right? If you go to the packages here, so these are the different packages which are available, which you can use. Okay, so I'm just talking about ASP for now, because we wanted to show the in context of SharePoint. So if you see, there are different kind of DLLs in terms of, if you are talking about .NET. Okay, but these are different libraries within a library, like namespace which we wanted to use. Like, consider, for example, if we wanted to get data from the SharePoint list, right? So we have an kind of import which says PNP SP list and items, right? And then just to get the list item from any method, what we have to do is we have to just call this particular code syntax, which is sp.web.list, then get by title and the list name, and items.get. So what it will do is it will basically give us the items by querying this. Okay, before doing actually calling this method, there's one more step which we have to do, is we have to just initialize or configure the context in which this library has to run. I'll be talking about in the code walkthrough about that. So this is to get the list items. Okay, similar way, if you wanted to get the list item and a particular list item by a method, you can just call get by id and just pass the item id, and it will give you that item. Okay, and then this item would be kind of the type safe, or basically it would be it would be of any type. So you can use IntelliSense to see what are properties and methods which are available, which would be returned by this particular method also. So a similar way, there are different methods, like if you wanted to talk about a list, then you go to list and then just see what are the different lists available. Like this is giving you the instance of list, and then what you can do is you can select the properties, you can update the list from your code. So more or less, every method which you would be running would be either running with a single line of code. Okay, but the only thing is you should be knowing what you wanted to do and how to go through this document and try to find out what all methods are available inside of it. Correct. Now let me first, what I'll do is I'll first maybe run a Gulpsar. So, and then maybe we can do a code walkthrough by the time Gulpsar will run. Okay. So this is the project. I have a SPFX web part which is developed, right? And that web part will show us the PNP.js sample operations. Okay. And I have installed using npm package the PNP.js library, and then depending on what we wanted to do, we will be just importing that uh, particular library or say method which would be available, right? Now, as I talk, like what we need to do is before actually using it, we need to do the configuration or do the PNP.js setup side of it, right? So in ideal case, it can be done on the React component side in the constructor method, because we would be doing it only once. So this is this is the simple line through which we are setting up the context in which the all the SP or the PNP.js method should run. Okay, so there are two to three ways of doing this SP setup. One of them is directly passing the context. Okay, so as we are all aware, we with the SPFX web part we get the context, correct, and that context can be used to actually call the different methods, so that the web part knows in which SharePoint context or which SharePoint site context it is running. Okay, so this is the simplest way if you wanted to use the SP or PNP methods in the current site collection where your web part is deployed. Okay, rather than making it specific to a particular site collection, you can directly just pass on the context which is available in your web part property. So this will set up the PNP.js methods which we can use then later. Okay. Then I just have a simple demo of the list operation where we will first create that one item, then we'll get an item, then we'll update that item, and then maybe we'll delete that item, right? Okay. Now, so what I have is I have 4 buttons which are there. Let me just see if my gulp serve has run. Yes, it has run. So let me just add this part. So this is the sample demo web part. Okay, so if you see, there are 4 buttons which are available. Okay, and what it will do is there is no fancy UI, no user input taken. Everything is hard coded just for the simplicity purpose. The first method is create new item. What it is doing is after it is initialized, it is just calling the method sp.web.list get by title and demo list. It means I'm just passing the list name, and within item I'm just saying create a new item. So there is an add method which is available, and if you see, if you hover over it, it will also give you the help kind of documentation around it, what we need to do, and you just pass the object in it. Okay, and in my case it was there were we are just updating 2 columns like title and description, and once it is updated, we will get the response in a particular format, and in that format we will get the ID of it, and I'm just storing that ID in the state. This is just to make sure the next methods which I wanted to do, I would be doing on the same item which I have created. Correct. Then the second method is get item. Okay, so it is just to get that particular item. So if you see here, the front part of it is remains same. Okay, till items. Then we are saying the method get by ID. Okay. Now we might be wondering if how would we remember this, right? So it's either by the documentation which you follow and just copy paste the code and make changes according to your need, but you can also get the IntelliSense, right? So if you start typing the command like sp.web, so it will give you the web method. Then if you can say list, it will give you the list. Then it will give you all the methods and properties which are available. So if you say get by title, so it will say get by title. If you want to get the list by ID, it will get the list by ID. So IntelliSense can be our friend at times wherein we can use this, and and we don't need to kind of remember all the syntax which is available. And if IntelliSense is not helping, go back to the documentation, just copy paste the codes, because documentation is detailed enough to use it directly, right? Same way for update item, what we are giving is we are getting the list and the items and the ID, and we are calling the update method, and then just we are passing the updated JSON in it, correct? And then for the delete, we have again same methods which we are using and the delete method. So it will basically delete that item, right? Now let's see quickly the demo from this. Okay, so this is my list, okay, where the items would be, kind of created, updated and everything. This is the demo list. So once I click on create new item, okay, it says item added successfully. And if I go here, hopefully there should be a new item which should be created. Okay, so this is the new item which is created with the current timestamp. Okay, and this item is created using PNP.js, right? Then let me just get that item. Once I click on get item, I'm just getting the title and displaying it here. Okay, so it's just basically displaying the list column title and displaying it here in the UI. Okay, once I click on updated item, I'm just updating the item with saying, this is my updated title. So if you go to the list, it is updated, correct? My updated title. And if I again get item, we can see the title has been updated. The new title is been repeated here. And then we have delete item, which is basically delete the item. So hopefully they should delete the item. So if I refresh the item here, and the item has been removed. So this is as simple as it can be. Okay, depending on once you get used to it, okay, and how you wanted to use it. If you would have not used PNP.js, what you would have to do is we have to make the REST API calls on our own, pass the JSON object, the application, I mean the header tokens and everything, and then use it. Okay, so this will save us time in terms of development, right? Okay, now coming to PNP search solution. Okay, so this is not directly kind of related to SPFX. Okay, but this is a repo which is available, which is developed by the community, which will give you a search solution based on the modern search, right? So is we all know that till now Microsoft has not came up with the search UI or the out of the box search which has the modern experience. It is still using the old experience. Okay, but there are a few ways, like in the search has been kind of reimagined by Microsoft, wherein we can now directly search from the document library on the modern UI, from the list, from the libraries also. Okay, but this search solution is basically giving us extra features where we can kind of control what we wanted to do with our search query. Like we can use the search query like old content search web part. We can also use static queries, or we can connect it with the search box. Okay, so this solution gives us four web parts which are available, which are kind of connected with each other, like refiner web part, search box web part, and there is a search results web part which can be used. Then we can also use we can also customize the templating part of it using handlebar.js. Okay, wherein we can make the UI the way we wanted it. You just need to know how to use the handlebar.js and do the customization out of it. Then also it provides you preview of the Office document and the videos within the search result. There are customizable refiners which are available in the multilingual support based system. The results are sortable, and there is a refiner web part. Then there is a best bet support also with this search solution, and there is a search query enhancement with LMP tool like LUIS and everything. So you can also configure this web part, wherein you can use the Microsoft LUIS web service to know the to do the natural language processing, correct? Then it also has extensively model, because as it is an open source. Okay, we can write our own components and we can then extend it to the way we wanted to do it, right? So let me quickly go to the demo. Okay, there won't be any walkthrough out of the code, because this is just the pure demo. Okay, so if you see, this is my sample site PNP search demo. Okay, and I have added three web parts to it. One is the refiner web part, one is the search component web part, and the search results web part. If we go and edit the page, okay, so yeah, so before going here, okay, what the search solution gives us, it gives us the package file which you can directly install. So which would be kind of, you know, a sppkg file, which is basically SPFX solution only. Okay, so if we don't want to clone anything or rebuild anything, what we can do is we can directly download the sppkg file, add to your app catalog, and install that solution into the targeted site collection, and then can start using the web parts on your sites. Correct. So so this one, these are the three web parts. So if I just go ahead and click here, what we will see is we will see search. If I go by search, okay, so these are the four web parts which are available, like search box, search filters, search results, and the search verticals, right? So the first one which we are seeing is the search box. Okay, and if you go to the edit property, I mean the web part property of it, it has some options wherein we can choose, like whether it is the query suggestions are enabled or not, whether we, what placeholder we wanted to display in the search box, do we want to send the query to a new page, or we wanted to connect the search results and the search text box web part onto the same page, right? And if you want to send it to new page, what should be the, which is the page URL, what should be the behavior, whether it should open a new tab, and what should be the method, whether it should be the URL fragment or the query parameter, by passing the query text from this particular component. Similar way, then we have the search result web part. Okay, so this is kind of very advanced web part. Okay, in fact there are 3 different pages which are available just to make the web part configurable. Okay, so depending on what you wanted to do, you can just see and select the option we want. Like for example, what we see right now is the results are displayed in the detail list, right? So there are readily layouts which are available. Like if you don't want the list to be displayed in the tabular format, you can just select the simple list. It, the layout would change. If you wanted to display in the tiles, the layout would again kind of change. See, this would be displayed in tile, and nothing works. And you, if you want to do something on your own, you can always use the custom. Okay, and then just give the template file URL of the HTML. So this can be pretty advanced. Okay, what on things what you wanted to do, but if you are comfortable with the handlebar JS and everything, this templates also can be edited and can be used. Okay, and it also has a good amount of the refiners which we wanted to select. Okay, and the properties we wanted to display. So if we click on the properties, what it will give us the list of the index properties which are available, and whatever properties you wanted to use as a part of your result set, that can be selected here. Okay, and then we have the search refiner web part. Okay, so search refiner web part is basically, there are two layouts to it. One is either you wanted to display it in the panel, or you want to display vertically. So if you select here, it will be displayed here only, the refiners. Okay, and then you can also configure the title, and also you can connect the selection should be passed to which web part. Okay, so these are kind of connected web parts. Okay, so once you select this, the dynamic data sourcing would be used. The selected queries would be passed to this particular search results, and it will automatically kind of re-render it because of the React, because of the way it is implemented. Like mostly it is reactive in nature. Correct. So this is something, you know, which we wanted to cover because many of us are many of our customers wanted to go to modern. Okay, but there are some features which are still not available in modern, where we have to kind of rely on to the classic side of it. Okay, so that's wherein this solution can come in handy, and you can use this to develop maybe your search center, or you can use site collection level the search thing for a particular site collections also. Okay, so this is about the search solution. Okay, and then now moving on to CLI for M365. Okay, so this is not exactly, as I mentioned, directly related to SPFX. Okay, but there are few commands which are available. So what it is, I mean, what it gives is, you know, it kinds of gives you a common language runtime to manage our M365 tenant or our SharePoint framework projects, right? And again, this is also distributed as an npm package. Okay, so what you have to do is, if you have Node installed on your system, you just have to run that particular npm package, and then it can be quickly used to automate the task. And it also can be used to quickly get the data from the single commands. Okay, we will see the demo from this. To install this, what we do is we say npm i and just run the pnp CLI m365 command. And if you're using Yarn, you can use this particular command. And then to just get started, you just use the login command, which will basically allow you to log in by using the web login method also. And to get the help of all the command, you just type help. Okay, this package, is kind of self help package, wherein if you once you start typing the commands, if nothing, it doesn't find anything command which is available, it will basically give you the help from it, right? So let me go here and see. So if you see, I have already kind of installed it in my local system, and what I did is I just we just say O365. Once we say O365, it will basically run into the get us the command prompt into the Office CLI runtime, correct? And once we are into CLI runtime, the kind of the command prompt gets in the red, so we know that we are running everything in the context of the CLI, correct? And then if I say help, okay, it will give me the list of commands which are available. So this is again not only for the SharePoint or anything, but it is to manage your Microsoft 365 products, right? So that's why there are different groups which are available. Like if you see, there is a group for AAD, to this is to manage your Azure Active Directory. Then this is to get access token. This can come in handy where you wanted to automate thing, where you wanted to get access token from a particular for a particular session or something, to make the automation script out of it. Then there are some CLI groups. There is a consent. Then there is a Microsoft Flow group through which you can directly get the data or update the properties. Okay. Behind the scenes, what you see here is everything would be kind of one way or another calling the REST APIs which are available. It's just that we don't have to make this REST API calls on our own. Okay, it would be kind of it has provided us the wrapper, and where we just have to run the commands, and then it will basically give me the list of information from us, and then we can use that information to maybe call another command to automate our scripts, right? So let me just see how we can do we can test couple of commands. Okay, so if you go to SPO, if you click on SPO, right, so it will give you long list of the commands which are available within SPO. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is like SPO app. So again, app is kind of an package wherein there are 9 different sub commands which is available within your app, correct? Same way, SPA field, there are 4 commands which is available, and these commands are getting added very frequently, as more and more community contributors are coming ahead and adding new commands. And these commands again are thought through using the practical scenarios wherein we are supporting our customers, correct? So let me just try to go through SPO list. Okay, so this command group, which what it will give is, it will basically allow us to get the data related to the list which are there in particular site collection, correct? And then there are sub commands which are available. So if you see, the SPO list has 22 sub commands. Okay, and these are the 22 sub commands which is there, which we can use. Okay, and the basic one would be listing all the list which is there, right? So if I now say SPO list and list, which is basically I want to list all the list or document library within a site collection, I can use that. If I simply enter this, it will give us the parameter when it says tell me in which context you wanted to run this command, right? Because what happens is, your Office 365 CLI is not at a particular site collection level. It is running in the context of your tenant, right? So it should know the basic information where you wanted to command. So depending on different commands which are there are different options available, which again you can just go through and just type help with that, and it will give you, sorry, help SPO list. Okay, and it will give you the list of available options and what you need to pass. Okay, so in this case it says web URL of the site where lists to be retrieved are located, like. So now what I will do is, I'll say SPO list. I'm not sure whether you guys are able to see, so I'll minimize this window, and then it says web URL to be passed. Okay, so let me pass the web URL of the demo site which we were seeing, like this is my lab. correct? And I'll just pass it here. Once you enter it, what it will give is behind the scene, it will call the REST API, and it is giving me the list of all the lists which are there in this particular site collection, right? And then you can also use this list. You can also get this in the JSON format and automate it. Okay. Ideally, if you see, I see two use cases. In many cases, what I want to do is, maybe I messed up something. Maybe I wanted to just see what kind of is there any custom actions which are kind of deployed onto the site collection, or what kind of apps are installed onto the site collection. Okay, rather than going and quickly manually check that, we can also kind of use this command, okay, to run it once, and it will give us the data, and we can just see, like for example, if you wanted to get the list ID, right, many a times we might be writing some PowerShell script and we wanted to maybe use the list ID out of it. Okay, then we don't directly get it. We have to either use a REST API call or maybe Graph Explorer to get that list ID. But using this CLI, we can directly see like what list ID is associated with which document library or list, and then maybe we can use it handy also. The other usage of Office 365 CLI, which I have seen practically, is in the DevOps, wherein if you wanted to, kind of create CI/CD pipelines of your SPFX solution, which you wanted to kind of automatically deploy on once you kind of checked in the code, or whether we wanted to create the release pipeline. In this case, this Office 365 CLI is commands are used, okay, because it gives you cross-platform way to run these script things, right? Because PowerShell would run on the Windows system, but what if your CI/CD pipeline or your environment is on the non-Microsoft Windows version, like maybe Ubuntu or Linux or anything? Then in that case, you can use Office 365 CLI also. Okay. Just to, before winding up, I mean, what I wanted to show you is there are four commands which are available related to SPFX, okay, which is SPFX. Okay, so these are the four commands. Okay, this command would help you. The first command is to externalize, which will basically externalize your project dependencies. So it will list down all the external dependencies which is there within your SPFX project. So this is more like of a analysis if you wanted to do for a SharePoint framework solution. Maybe if you are a team lead, and if you have a developer who has developed a solution, if you wanted to quickly check what he has done, you can use this to see what are the external dependencies we have used on the in your SPFX solution. And then you have command to rename your SPFX project. Okay, this can become very tricky if you are doing it manually, because there are many references in your code in your SPFX solution. So for example, if you started developing the project as a POC, and maybe in the later point of time you wanted to rename it. Okay. Many a times it happens that we keep the same name as it is, because we don't know the implication out of it if you wanted to rename it. But this command will basically kind of safely rename your SPFX project the way you wanted to do it. Then this is very important and mostly used, which is SPFX project upgrade, right? So as we know, SPFX also kind of gets released every now and then. Okay, and right now we are into SPFX 1.11, right? And you might have already developed your SPFX solution, but you might want to upgrade it to get the new features which are available as part of your SPFX solution. Okay, this will not exactly upgrade it for you, but what it will give you is it will give you the list of the things or list of the steps which you have to do it to upgrade from one version to another. Okay, I have seen people using it many a times. I have personally used it, and it's very handy, and it gives you a detailed steps of what you need to do just to upgrade your solution from one version to another, right? And then there is an SPFX doctor, which is basically kind of verifies your current environment configuration for using the specific version of SharePoint. So for example, if you wanted to see whether maybe 1.10, if you can use maybe SPFX 1.10 in your current node environment, it will just run and give you the kind of execution wherein it says whether it is available or not, whether you wanted to run it or not. Okay, I have never run it. Let me try to run it and see. Um but other than that, I think I am mostly done from my presentation side of it. And yeah, so if you see it, Okay, it says SPFX Doctor doesn't support SPFX 11, so it means that maybe the command is not supporting my version, which is I have my SPFX version is 1.11, so it right now it is yet not supported. I'm not sure, but it might be the case wherein my CLI would be older. Yes, definitely it is older, because the CLI version 3 has been recently released, okay, which might have this command which will allow us to verify our environment configuration. Okay, so with this, I would like to say thank you, and you can connect with me for any queries. And before handing over to Nandeep, we just wanted to again, highlight there is an PNP virtual conference which is been starting from on is there on the 1st of September, where uh, there are people from around the world who would be kind of uh, giving you these different sessions on the topic around Microsoft 365, SharePoint, and other areas. Okay, there's a very good lineups of the speakers which is there, which are kind of most of them are the PNP contributors, which have who have either maintainers of the repos, or who are basically the developers of the repos. So this can be you can basically join this. Okay, and then see you on the 1st of September. Okay, so that's it from my side, Nandip. Looks like